Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to our 19th annual Women at Children's Hospital lecture. Next year will be our 20th anniversary. I can't remember if that's gold, silver, diamonds, I don't know, but I'm going to hit up Dr. Batchoff for one of those as soon as we can figure out what the color coordination is. We also want to welcome those of you who are on WebEx. We know many of you cannot physically be here because of your other clinical obligations, so welcome. What is WATCH? Some of you may wonder, in particular our new residents and our medical students. So WATCH stands for Women at Children's Hospital. It is a program that was developed many years ago to make sure that our female faculty had opportunity for leadership and advancement, and also had opportunity for peer mentorship. I think the program has been one of the reasons why we see so many more individuals in leadership positions here at Children's, and I think we should all be very grateful for that and for the leadership of Dr. Batchoff in allowing that to all happen. I also just want to inform you all that with his leadership and that of the hospital administration, we will be launching an Emerging Leaders program that will be happening in the fall. Once again, to make sure that our female faculty are sufficiently educated in all issues related to advancement. And there'll be more announcements on that as we move forward. And we have a very, very special person here today for our lecture, and Charlie Barul is going to do the introduction.
Great, thanks Naomi, and thanks for allowing me the honor of introducing today's WATCH speaker. Angela Sharkey, MD, is the Senior Associate Dean for Academic Affairs at the University of South Carolina, Greenville. School of Medicine, and the Department of Biomedical Sciences. She's a professor. She's also a pediatric cardiologist with special interest in Marfan syndrome and familial aortopathy. And we overlapped during cardiology fellowship about 30 years ago, so that's why I have a lot of these casual pictures up there. I scoured through my old prints to try to find a print of us together, and really couldn't find one. I found these ones of really her as family, and what I could find is our two babies that were born around the same time in 1991 when we were fellows. And that's about all I could find of us together in 1991, but it was a really cute picture for the intro. She's a committed educator and an advocate for the career development and professional advancement of medical faculty, particularly of women faculty. She served as the chair of the American Association of Medical Colleges, the group of women in medicine and science, and she's been an invited presenter at many national scientific meetings, including the American Heart Association, the AAMC Career Development Program, and the American Academy of Pediatrics prep course. She has recognized expertise in peer group mentoring, career advancement in academic medicine, and the art of communication, understanding of self and team functions. But most importantly, Angie is a terrific and caring person. She's a great academic and pediatric cardiologist clinician, and I'm proud to count her as a colleague and a friend.
Thanks,
welcome to Children's National.
Thank you. That was lovely. Thank you so much. Okay, I have to back up for a second. Oh, okay. So Andrew is now a fashion designer in New York City, and Christopher is designing the next orbital launch system so that man can get to Mars. So these two little babies who were at dinner and causing us trouble so that we couldn't sit together and enjoy our dinner have turned out pretty well, and we should be proud of them. And that's part of what our work in life is, right, is to create and mold the future generation. So all of you are sitting back there with your laptops writing notes. I want you to pay attention today, because this is more important. So I appreciate so much for the opportunity to be here today. I'm a pacer when I lecture, and so we're going to have some fun time together. Grand Rounds for me used to be the time when I would be called to the auditorium, expected to be there, and then people would start putting up Western blots, right? And we didn't actually have cell phones when I was in my training, and so we didn't get to be distracted by something else. We had to actually sit and watch. And what I learned by experiencing that is making people sit and not interact for 45 minutes to an hour of time is just too much. So we're going to have interaction today to help keep everybody awake, engaged, and learning. And so I want to thank Dr. Lubin, Dr. Bensali, and Shaw for the invitation to come here today. And what I hope you all will leave with is an opportunity to message to Dr. Bradshaw the things that you are accomplishing that are going to create an environment here that will allow you to remain curious and engaged in the future of healthcare for children. Okay? So that's a minor accomplishment that we hope to achieve within an hour of time. And in order to do that, we're going to talk about communication strategies, especially in this era of social media, and how to talk about your professional accomplishments in a way to increase people's interest in what you're doing and have a greater impact, therefore, because people are interested in what you're doing. To create a message map, so you're actually going to create a tool when you leave today. And then we're going to talk about networking and the importance of networking. So we're going to start this morning with a few reflection questions. And you can now get out your phone if you would like, because I want you to write some of these things as notes to yourself. If you're a paper person like I am, and hopefully you brought some with you, then write it down. But go ahead, get your phone out and think about this. In what ways are you currently visible within this organization? Go ahead, write it down, think about it. That might be what committees you serve on. It might be what services you provide to patients or your colleagues. Write a few things down. How are you visible? You guys in the back row aren't very visible. So, are you using those opportunities where you are visible for their greatest impact? Are you intentional when you are visible within your organization to be your best self? And are there additional ways that you seek to be visible? Are there opportunities that you haven't been offered that you really care about? Are there ways that you seek to be involved and somehow you're not realizing those opportunities? I want you to write about that for a minute too. Put those into your phone. Create a notes page. Okay. So I'm going to focus on women just for a second, if I may, because that's the purpose of my visit in part here today. There's a Catalyst report that was published in 2011 that showed that women who were proactive in making their accomplishments visible, some people would use the term bragging, but this is not bragging because your accomplishments are real. Those people who made their accomplishments visible or advanced further were more satisfied with their careers and had greater compensation growth than those who were less focused on calling attention to what they're doing. And this is why message mapping is so important and a tool that we're going to talk about today. So first and foremost, I think it's really important that you know yourself, and this I will focus particularly at the learners, the younger generation in the room. There's opportunities to do all kinds of exploratory tools to think about who you are and how you relate to others and to the world. Some of those are called things like the Myers-Briggs or the PACE palette. They're temperament assessments, and they help you understand more about yourself and be comfortable in your own skin. Like, I am, in the PACE palette, I'm a blue. What that means is that I lead with social and people. I really care that everybody's happy. That makes it hard for me sometimes as a leader because I have to make decisions that don't always make people happy. And so I had to come to grips, really, with the fact that it's okay on occasion that people aren't satisfied or happy with what I'm telling them. And at the same time, because I'm a blue, I love to talk about stories. And I love to tell people all the details about all the people who are helping me accomplish great things. But leaders are sometimes really busy, and they want information delivered quickly and succinctly. I'm not as good at that. And so this message mapping tool that we're going to go through today was really helpful to me in that way. It's also really important to be authentic. To be your authentic self, you have to have alignment of your head, what you think, your mouth, what you speak, and your heart, who you are. And then your feet, so that you're going in the direction that is authentic for you in your career path. So that feeling and doing the same thing consistently can build trust amongst your colleagues. And you as a leader need followers, otherwise you're not a leader. Followers like to follow people they can trust. Now we're going to talk about how you present yourself to the external world. I notice there's a few people with lab coats on today. Hopefully they've been laundered relatively recently. But when you're out in public, how do you present yourself? So here's a really interesting challenge again for women. When we are photographed, often we don't want to put our white coats on. That's okay, but then if we are physicians and scientists who have the identity to the public that you wear a white coat when you're your professional self, then you're not seen as a physician or a scientist because that's what the world expects us to look like. Some of you have your stethoscope hanging around your neck, right? That's an identifier of your profession, but it can be confused with many other professions. It doesn't necessarily reflect to the world that you're a physician if you are a physician. So remember that when you're asked, let's take a professional photograph, just like Dr. Brule put up plenty of pictures of me, at least one I had a white coat on, right? People understood in that circumstance pretty easily, oh, she's a physician scientist. What's your signature look like? Some of my colleagues don't take the time to capitalize the first letter of their name. That reflects to people either I'm not important or I'm too busy, I can't even take the time to hit the shift key at the same time that I hit the first letter of my name. That send signals are just not the good signals to send. And you all have gotten emails, I'm sure, that were all capital letters, and somebody's yelling at you by email. You don't want to do that either, because that's emphasis that perhaps you're not happy at that moment. And is your signature block longer than the email itself? So there are some of my colleagues who I literally have to scroll down the page because they have so many titles and so many things. Well, that sends another message as well. And is that being proud of your accomplishments, or is that being a little over the top? Well, we'll think about that. And then in terms of authenticity and consistency, building trust, you need to represent yourself in your social media platforms in the same way that you want people to perceive you. So if you have a Facebook account, if you're active on Twitter, you need to make sure that your professional self is represented in those social media platforms. And that's how some of our learners and some of us get ourselves really into trouble. I don't tweet because I don't understand how to do it without being dangerous in what I do, because I don't understand the @ and the hashtag. Although I've given a talk one time doing hashtags and got a lot of positive feedback about the fact that I actually understood that, thanks to Jimmy Fallon. Okay, so now what we're going to do is assume that you, like Charlie Brown and his teacher, are hearing me go, wah, 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 right? That's what happens when you sit still for too long and don't get a chance to talk. So what I want you to do now, and I apologize for those of you who are remote, this is probably a little more challenging for you, but what I want you to do now is turn to a colleague and tell them something you are doing right now within this organization. So this is not about your day outside of work. This is your day at work. Tell somebody next to you what you're doing right now. Are you feeling better? Okay, if you haven't switched turns, let the other person talk. Okay, you all are being really quiet and you're like acting like you're done. Go ahead, keep going. Keep going. All right, now I'm going to have you stop. So I'm going to reflect a couple interesting observations that I made from up here looking at the rest of you. One observation is that the energy in the room was really high and really positive, right? You heard a lot of voices, excitement, laughter. That's a really good thing to interject as an educator in your sessions, whatever those sessions are. Allow the people in the room to get energy during your talk. So take breaks like that about every 10 minutes. Ideally, have a break that you allow people to interact with each other and therefore they're not falling asleep. The second thing is that I stopped you. I made a comment at a 1-minute mark. How many of you had already had 2 people tell their stories in that 1 minute? Yeah, quite a few of you. So this is a societal issue we may have. Let's admit it, right? If you're given time to tell somebody about yourself and what you're doing and you can't even talk for a minute about yourself, is that a good thing? I'm not sure. But actually today we're going to talk about telling your story in 15 seconds. So I'm going to amplify that behavior of only talking for a short period of time about yourself. And then the third thing is that after I made a comment, the energy in the room went, Did you notice that too? Like there was still some talk, but it was much quieter. So remember that when you're in a position of authority in the room. If you're the person leading a meeting and you want people to talk, be careful about interjecting too soon because you'll squash the creative energy that can come out of that session that you're having. All right, so I would now like to have you focus on how to use that minute that you had for greater impact. So this is a video that I'm going to show you from the Forbes magazine portfolio on YouTube. And you're going to, I hope, say to me, Dr. Sharkey, why the heck are you showing us this video? And I'm going to leave you with that curiosity for a minute while we watch this couple of minutes video.
How to pitch anything in 15 seconds. And we're going to do so with the help of a great tool called a message map. A message map is the visual display of your story on one page. So for this exercise, you're going to need a notepad, a tablet computer, or a good old-fashioned whiteboard. And we're also going to use the example of a real company called Lush. Lush is a global soap store. I believe they're in about 45 countries. They make fantastic handmade fresh soap. Oh, that lemon smells great. I don't have any financial interest in this company, but I know their messaging really, really well. I've talked to the founders before, and in order to create a really good message map, you got to know the story. So let's start with step one, creating what I call a Twitter-friendly headline. The Twitter-friendly headline is the one overarching message that you're trying to communicate to your customer, the one thing you want people to know about your brand or your product. I've already taken the liberty of filling this out. Lush makes handmade soaps and cosmetics. So again, based on my understanding and my understanding of the message, I think that's the one thing they want you to know. Lush makes handmade soaps and cosmetics. If that's all you know, it tells you a lot, and it also fits well within a Twitter post of 140 characters, so keep it short. But now let's fill in the rest of the message map with 3 or at most 4 supporting points. So again, based on what I understand of their messaging so far, I would say fresh is very important to them, and we'll talk about that in a second. Fresh. The other sub-point or supporting point I would make is environmentally, and I'll shorten it, environmentally friendly. And the third point is ethical campaigns. They support a lot of ethical campaigns globally and in their various communities where the locations are held. So Lush makes handmade soaps and cosmetics. There's 3 reinforcing points. They're fresh, they're environmentally friendly, and they support ethical campaigns. Now let's see how this would work out in the real world. I'm going to use a stopwatch for this. Let's assume, hypothetically, a customer walks into a Lush store. A sales associate might say something like this. Hi, welcome to Lush. We make handmade soaps and cosmetics. Everything you see in the store is fresh, it's environmentally friendly, and part of the proceeds go to support ethical campaigns in our community. Take a look around. Enjoy yourself. 15 seconds. In 15 seconds, I gave you the broad story. If that's all you know about Lush, this actually tells you quite a bit. But now let's go one step further. Let's extend the conversation somewhat, maybe to a 30-second pitch. You're going to have to support these points for a longer conversation. So under fresh, you might add just a couple of bullet points like manufactured daily, shipped the next day. Under environmentally friendly, you can put something like unpackaged so that the plastic doesn't end up in landfills. Or you might put ingredients not tested on animals. These sub-points, the supporting points for each of your 3 key messages, need to be very specific. They need to be examples, data, statistics, or even stories. And under ethical campaigns, you might add 1 or 2 of the campaigns that the Lush brand supports, either globally or locally in communities. So there you go. This is a message map. It is one of the most powerful tools in communication. It works each and every time, even for very complex products or concepts. I know because I've worked with leaders who have incredibly complex products to talk about or to sell. In fact, the more complex your product, the more you need the message map. Because you, as a leader, you need to communicate the benefits of your product in a way that is simple, clear, and concise. The message map is your winning ticket.
All right. So now how many of you are saying, why are you telling us about soap? So it's funny because I had never seen a Lush store when I found this YouTube video, and since then they have spread across the country, and I can do their commercial for them, right, based on this video because I've seen it enough. So, so why does this matter? So here are 2 reasons that I argue that this really matters. One is that we are scientists by our training. We are curious. We like data. And if we are at a cocktail party and somebody asks us about what we're doing, oftentimes our desire is to give them all the data. And what happens is you watch their face glaze over because they just don't have an attention span or an interest necessarily that's at the level of detail that we are providing. So that's one reason. Another reason this is really important is because when I moved academic positions from one institution to another and I became an associate dean, I was invited to meet the president of the university. And the president of the university, when I was introduced to him, said, "Tell me what you're doing." And I didn't really have a succinct answer. And there were 25 people behind me who were going to be introduced to the president as well. So I felt this sense of urgency. I got to hurry up. And I didn't have a really good answer. So having a message map for me has been really helpful. And I have many of them. In fact, I have one drawn on my whiteboard in my office. Because when somebody asks me about my school, why did you move to Greenville, South Carolina? I want to be comfortable and prepared telling them that we create innovative learning processes to produce a new kind of doctor, a doctor who's really ready to work in the future healthcare environment. And that, to me, is so important to get across. And if I'm walking by somebody in the hallway, if Dr. Lubin and I cross paths, and she says, "How are you today?" What's our usual answer? Fine. Great. How much information are we really transferring about all that's going on in the hospital and the health system if that's all the time we take to talk to each other? So what I'm going to have you do now is think about those ways that you were visible right now in the organization. Go back to that initial drafting that you did and think about how do you tell that in a message map. And if you didn't, take the time to think about the ways that you're visible in the organization right now. I want you to take the story you just told the person you were talking to when you had a minute to tell them that story, and think about creating a message map that might have more impact and draw more interest from the person who's listening to you about what you're doing right now. Okay? So I'm going to have you work for maybe 3 minutes to get 3 points. Your Twitter-friendly headline. Let me just fill this in. Oh, let me show you mine really quick. Forgot about that. So you might have seen that flyer for this session. So what I did was try to create a message map about me. Now, it just has my name as my Twitter-friendly headline. But what I wanted you to know about me, and I hoped to be able to draw your attention to come to today's Grand Round, was I wanted you to know that I'm a creative and adaptive leader, and that I am a recognized pediatric cardiologist who has participated in Pediatric Heart Network-funded clinical trials. And I'm an innovative educator, which I hope I'm showing you right now during this session. Okay? So that's the kind of thing that your message map can reveal to the person you're talking to. So this is your guide. Get out your phone. Don't write notes for your patients right now. Work on your message map. And I'm going to give you a few minutes where I'm just going to be quiet and you can work. Okay, now I realized I made you work on that really fast. I realize. But doesn't have to be perfect right now because now you're going to practice. And what I want you to do is with your partner, who you're going to tell your message map to, communicate your importance within the organization to, I want you to have a timer on and hit it and see how long it takes them. Now listen, talking really fast doesn't help get your message across. So it's not about speed. And the other thing is, you don't, with these 3 pillars, want to say 1, 2. That should not be part of the conversation. Okay? So go ahead and practice with each other and time your messages. All right, I'm going to pull you back together now. So how many of you were successful in getting your message across in 15 seconds? And how many of you took time to refine your message so that you could perhaps get it done in 15 seconds? I gave you 5 minutes to talk, and you were only supposed to have 30 seconds. Each of you got 15 seconds, right? So I think there's a lot of storytelling going on, which is a great thing, and hopefully you are coaching each other. Thinking about things in your message like using powered language, not to be afraid to talk about what is it that I fundamentally care about in helping move this organization forward. And what is it that makes me unique here? What attributes do I bring that somebody needs to know about? Those are pieces that should be a part of your message map. Now, why does that matter again? Part of it is making sure that the people who are around you know what you're doing. And we're all really busy, let's just admit that. But we also are all really connected to human beings. We care about connectedness. And this is a way to make sure that the people who really do care about you, because they work with you every day, know what you're doing and know what you care about. And the other thing is that once upon a time, I was at another event where a faculty member that I was working with in our Department of Pediatrics had just received an NIH award. And it was around the holiday season. And we're at a cocktail party. And the president of the hospital walked up to us while he was telling me about his NIH award. And she said to him, congratulations. Actually, I did it. Oh, he just received an NIH award. Did you know about this? And she said, well, congratulations. Is there anything I can do to help you? And you know what he said? He said, no, everything's okay. Well, I walked out the door with him afterwards and shook him a little bit and said, are you crazy? The president of the hospital asked you if you needed anything and you didn't say, oh, yes. So that's when you get to your 30-second message map. Somebody asks you, how can I help you? You need to have those supporting legs of the message map to be able to say, I've actually thought about this. And here are the really important things I need to be successful in the work that I'm trying to do. And that happens more often than you think. Or it might be that you're not at the cocktail party and they're asking you what can they do to help. They might say, why don't you come to my office? Let's have a meeting and talk about this more. And that's where you use those additive statistics or data or resources to tell your story even with more impact. So my message map to the hospital president, because I actually had this opportunity when I changed institutions, was that I wanted a Marfan clinic at the new place where I was. And I said, look, there's 3 reasons that a multidisciplinary Marfan syndrome clinic will be helpful. It'll improve patient care, it will increase revenue streams, and it will provide an opportunity for us to serve as a regional and national center of excellence for clinical care and research. So you notice the language I use. This is what I call power language, right? these are the things a hospital president cares about. And so I'm thinking about not just my message and what are my fundamental cares, but who am I telling that story to? Because if it is the president of the hospital, I'm going to tell it in a different way than if it is my friend at the tennis club, correct? Because they care about different things. So understanding who your audience is becomes an important part of your message map as well. Yes, we did get a multidisciplinary Marchand's clinic, by the way. So the other thing that's really important, and I'm going to speak to the younger generation in the back now, is that actually you talk to the person that you're communicating with, and my kids will tell me, oh, I talked to them yesterday, but what they mean is that they sent a text message. Those are different things. Talking means you're using your mouth. So it's really important to make sure that you are communicating to that person eye to eye, that you are showing interest in what you are trying to communicate to them, and that they are hearing your message. It's important to measure your tone. When I get in a hurry, I sometimes get short, and people call me a no-nonsense leader because of that. So I have to be careful not to be short, especially in the South. I've learned that that's not how you act, right? When I was in the Northeast, that was okay. That was how everybody communicated to each other. When you're anxious, take a deep breath. Like, I'm going to talk to a hospital president, oh my gosh. So just put your shoulders back and relax a little bit and use the opportunity for its best purpose. And then when you're overcommitted, think about reducing your workload. We really can do less. We can hit the electronic health record with intention to communicate the important things about patient care as much as all the labs that were done on that patient in the last 24 or 48 or 72 hours. Some people prefer to think of this in PARS statements, so I just want to throw this construct out to you. We're not going to really focus time on this today. PARS are the problem that you saw, the action that you took to solve the problem, the result that came out of your action, and so something like, if you're a residency program director, you could say, I lead the residency program, I led it through the reaccreditation process, and we received a 7-year accreditation because of my work, right? And your team did this work with you, but it's okay to own your role in that work. Any questions or comments about PARS statements? Okay. Now, the final thing I want to say, talk about is networking and using your network. Believe it or not, I'm an introvert. I really enjoy public speaking, but like I'll go home today and hide in my room with the doors closed so that I can regain energy after doing this. So networking is really hard for me, and that's why in part probably message mapping really helps me, because it helps me sort of think through what am I going to say to somebody before I even meet them. But when you think about your network, this is a way where junior faculty, women faculty, and introverts can really leverage an opportunity. So when you think about your network, there's sort of 3 levels of your network. There's your inner circle. Those are probably the 10 people that you look to help guide you or you interface with socially on a regular basis because you're comfortable with them. It might even be your team in your office. For a cardiologist, your echo techs and the nurses who are helping you, the other physicians who you work with. The next level, your second level network, is people who you have connection to, but it takes a little more effort. So those are what I think of as the people who I have lunch with once a month or once a quarter, and it's usually because there's a business connection that I want to continue to cultivate. Like, for example, the COO of the hospital, because in my role, having the medical students in the hospital means they need to have resources like space to have their computers so they can write their notes. So I need to maintain a connection with that individual so that they understand the importance of our medical school to the health system and the future of healthcare. Those people are important too. You want to have a message map when you're thinking about, I'm going to talk to that person, here's something I really want to relay to them. And then there are people who are worth a reach. So this is the group that's really hard for me. I would say, Gil, you're really good at this, right? These are the people who are like the president of a hospital or a local congressman or somebody who is a part of your national organization, whatever national organization that is that you're a part of. These people are important for you to be able to message to because they can be your sponsor. Many of you, I hope, know the term sponsorship. Yes? So sponsorship is different than mentorship. Mentorship is someone who helps guide you along the way of your career. And you look to them for advice about what I need to do to get from an assistant to an associate professor. A sponsor is somebody who's going to stick their neck out for you and suggest you for a moderator at a session at your national meet, or perhaps to introduce you to someone else who they know who is at a high level within an area that you care to achieve, or potentially someone who could be a donor. This is a really important place to think about your message now. What matters to you and how can they, with their capacity to give, help you achieve what you need to achieve. So your worth or reach people are really important to think about. Now I want you to get your notebooks out again, your phone, and think about who are your connections with effort and worth it that you may not be leveraging, and then 2 people who are worth a reach. So put that in your phone because I want you to commit to this. And if you write it down or write with your hands, write it down, it will help embed that in your brain and make it more likely to happen. Or you could put it on your calendar. Inside joke. Okay, so take just about 2 minutes to do that for me. Okay, so I understand from Dr. John that there's a particular restaurant that you all should go to now that you've thought about your network, right? Where you can run into the politicians and the groups that are going into the back rooms. Ask her later which restaurant that is. We talked about sponsorship already, but again, a sponsor is somebody who's going to help make you visible to others. And that's why it's so important to think about who can be your sponsor and how can they help you, and have your message map ready. So I want you to think about in your career path, again, focusing in particular on the young individuals in the back, choose your work to reflect your authentic self and to match your message, because that will help you build credibility. It will also help you make you less vulnerable to burnout in your career if you're doing what you really care about and enjoy. Remember that credibility requires three things: trustworthiness, expertise, and ethical integrity. And then I think I'm going to skip that and just finish so that we can have a couple minutes for someone to tell us their message map. Remember, in conclusion, to know yourself, reflect your authentic self to others, embrace your strengths, be proud of them, and focus on making them more visible to others at work and maybe in your community. And then don't overextend. Think really strategically about what it is that are your fundamental cares for your career, and focus on those, and take time to allow yourself to amplify those skills as you move through your career. Okay? So who thinks they did a really awesome knock it out of the ballpark job on their message map and wants to use 15 seconds to tell the audience? Anybody? Come on. Oh, okay. Yeah. So the question was, how do you balance bragging and pride versus I did this? And I think that the answer to that is part of knowing yourself, right? So some people can talk about themselves very easily, and other people cannot. And it's not a character flaw to be able to talk about yourself easily. But if you're talking about yourself for more than 30 seconds, it's probably too much about you rather than your team. And that's, again, the value of the message map. So when you do your 15 seconds, that should be all about you, and take ownership of everything you have done. In your 30 seconds, when you're building your story, is your opportunity to bring in your team. And what happens for women in particular, Gil, is that we focus on those around us because that's survival of the species, right? We talked about this last night at dinner. There are differences between males and females, and that is what has allowed the human race to exist. If we were all the same, we wouldn't. And so the fact that we, the females, have those maternal instincts is critical to survival. And we take care of our team as a part of our intrinsic self. So it's harder for women to talk about themselves. They'll start with their team. And maybe as you think about telling your stories to each other, you'll think about, did I talk about me or did I talk about us? And so, I would encourage you, when you experience someone who you feel is bragging, to say, tell me more about the people who you work with. And that'll help steer them into not bragging, but talking about their team. Does that make sense? Yeah? Okay, come on up. Tell us your message now. Oh, you got the microphone right there. All right.
Okay. So my name is Chantel Bennett, and I'm a clinical research coordinator and collaborator. I engage patients from a place of empathy to help them understand and engage in asthma research. I'm constantly curious about innovations in public health, and I work and collaborate with other researchers across multiple studies.
Let's just give her a round of applause. That was incredible. Thank you very much for sharing it with us. So did it start that way the first time you guys talked?
Yeah, that's actually the first time.
Oh, awesome. You can stay up here now and coach, okay? All right. Really awesome. Thank you all very much for your attention today.